Hi everyone, my name is Riley Barucci, and I am getting my Master's of Science in Criminology and Criminal Justice. And my research was an in-depth look into a career as a social worker with the Massachusetts Department of Children and Families. I began my research by finding background information and found that their mission statement was to protect children from abuse and neglect and, in partnership with families and communities, ensure children can grow and thrive in a safe and nurturing environment. Their vision is to ensure that all children can grow up in a nurturing home with no abuse or neglect present, along with access to food, shelter, clothing, healthcare, and an education. There are 32 locations that span across the entire state, and they all have a specific phone number to ensure that people can contact the correct location easily. And there's also a hotline for people who need to report child abuse after normal business hours. And this is the Child at Risk Hotline, and the phone number is 800-792-5200. Next, I looked into the policies and regulations that the locations must follow, and they're broken into 8 different sections, which are administrative activities, child and family care practice, child health and well-being, child placement and permanency, intake, placement support, supervision, and miscellaneous forms. Along with these policies, there are specific regulations that tie into these same categories, and those were established by the 15 trial court law libraries in Massachusetts. Backing on these policies and regulations, the Massachusetts DCF provides a variety of services to families in their care. There are services specific to children and also families as a whole, and these services are listed in the bottom right-hand corner of my poster. After conducting research on the background, I looked more into first steps to obtaining a career within the Massachusetts DCF, as well as the requirements for being hired as a social worker. These are laid out in the top right corner of my poster, and it requires you to have a bachelor's degree in a social science, as well as be licensed as a social work associate, a social worker, a certified social worker, or an independent clinical social worker issued by the Massachusetts Board of Registration. I've also listed necessary skills and the DCF's core values, as those will help you to get a job within this department. In the next section, I talk about what to expect once you're hired, and there will be a criminal background check done, in-job trainings, both in a classroom and in the field, and then you can expect a salary between $54,000 and $74,000 yearly. The job satisfaction is significantly above the national average, but raises and promotions happen rarely, which can often cause burnout, and there are some benefits to working for a state agency as listed under benefits on the right side of my poster. For the final part of my research, I reviewed policy issues and challenges facing DCF social workers and included possible solutions that I think would be helpful in addressing these issues. The first challenge I discussed was the work environment and how difficult it can be to work there, as well as burnout syndrome, which emerges as a prolonged response to a chronic interpersonal stressors of the job. And the solution I proposed was organizational support and having the organization provide employees with different ways that they can cope with the stress of their job. The second challenge I discussed was a work-life balance and how difficult it can be to keep these separate when working with the Massachusetts DCF as a social worker. And the solution I proposed for this would be self-care, which is just trauma-informed self-care so that you can reflect on yourself and make sure that you are still in a positive mindset, as well as developing personal stress management and coping strategies. The third challenge is challenges associated with COVID-19 and how it decreases the number of reports coming in, and it isolates families, and children may be stuck in negative environments for long periods of time. And the solution I propose to this is just government assistance in enacting federal bills, such as ones that have already been put in place, such as the Families First Coronavirus Response, the CARES Act, the Paycheck Protection Program, and Healthcare Enhancement Act, as well as a few others. Also discussed is the importance of the vaccine distribution and how this can take us one step closer to our previous normal. I have 3 of my references that I used most often throughout my paper listed on the lower right corner of my poster, and thank you so much for listening. I hope that you learned a little something from my presentation.